You're listening to Entrepreneur Encounter, the podcast where soft skills meet real talk for creative business owners who are building with purpose. I'm Dana, a Pinterest marketing strategist and agency owner helping wedding pros and creative entrepreneurs get seen without burning out.
And I'm Sarah, a business and team strategist who helps small teams and podcasters communicate clearly, lead with empathy, and grow sustainably. Together, we're unpacking the messy, meaningful side of entrepreneurship, from boundaries to burnout, leadership to listening, so you can build a business that actually fits your life.
So, Sarah, have you ever found yourself lying awake at 2 a.m. or some other ungodly hour in the middle of the night, worried about a client's business problems that have nothing to do with the work you're actually doing for them?
Oh my goodness, so many times. I remember there was, a client that hired me on for team management, and she was asking about, I think she was asking about like social media. And although I'm not a social media expert, I was like, you don't have somebody on your team for that. Let me do some research. And I spent time that I should have not researched on at all, because that was not my zone of genius. And I wasted a bunch of time doing that.
I feel like that's something we all struggle with from time to time because I know for me at least, my clients, it's a very personal relationship or collaboration. So I try not to feel guilty about it. Honestly, I think it's what led me to doing Pinterest marketing in the first place, because when I started my entrepreneurial journey, I was a wedding planner turned virtual assistant for wedding planners. And so I knew their struggles more intimately than most do, and was feeling like I needed to go above and beyond, because when I started my business, it was in the middle of the pandemic. And so I recognized a lot of gaps that were happening to my clients and think, oh, if this was me, I would be a struggle bus today. Which is why I pivoted in the first place, because I didn't want those struggles in my life. So I think it's perfectly timed of what we're talking about today is why caring people in business sometimes carry themselves right into burnout. And that's something that I faced. I'm sure it sounds like something you faced. And the goal today is to learn how to tell the difference between being empathetic and being an enabler.
Those are two words that are on the opposite ends of each other, because obviously as service providers, we want to help our clients in all the ways that we can, but we have to come up with better ways to do so. And I think that could be really tricky, especially when we care so much about our work. We have to figure out a way that we're not stressing ourselves out. Of course, I want to help you do this, but we have to come to a solution so that we're not all burning out, so that the services that you hired me for, that is where you're getting the most time spent.
I like that. So for those that are just tuning in or nodding their heads, we're going to be diving into something that is the trickiest emotional intelligence skill out there, I feel like, for heart-centered entrepreneurs. And that's how to balance that empathy without absorbing everyone else's stress. And that's from fixing problems that aren't yours to burning out because you care too much. It's wonderful when it naturally leads you to niching in a way that you didn't originally expect. But there has to be a balance to showing that you care and supporting them without doing more than what you're getting paid for, and causing yourself to either lose sleep, be snappy with the people around you in real life, and anywhere in between that. So it's story time.
Story time.
Sarah, do you have any other stories or real life examples of having to step out of that caring I don't even say that like caring too much, but that empathetic where it was causing a problem.
So I had a client and I was hired to team management in the podcast space and this agency. And I remember during calls, kept, venting about email marketing and social media. And going back to what I said earlier, like almost feeling the need to do the research, although this is not my expertise. I wanted to show that I cared about my client, that I cared about what they were doing. So although I was hired for one thing, I said, yeah, let me do some research on email marketing and social media content, which I spent unpaid hours worrying about how are we going to implement email marketing and social media into the space. But I had to come clean and say like, hey, this is not my area of expertise. I can't spend time on something that I'm not well versed in because I want to be able to help you with the things that you hired me on because that's where my expertise will show. And we have to come up with a different way to figure this out. And because burning out on both ends, like I'm burning out doing stuff that I don't enjoy doing. So let's figure out a way to where we're not burning out. We got to figure out how to build a team to where we find somebody that is an expert in those spaces so that you're able to grow your business in a better way, essentially, because I'm no expert in that stuff at all.
That hits extremely close to home because I know I've done the same thing. And I know over the last year specifically, I've been working. I go, well, let's go way back. So my intention for this year was invest. I wanted to invest in ways that saved me time and made everything flow better so that as I grow, I'm not scrambling and stressing out. But a few years ago, I had a wedding planner client who was also really struggling with work-life balance. They would vent and not necessarily cry, but like really let off a lot of steam during our planning calls, saying that they felt like they were failing because they were trying to level up into the luxury wedding market, but we're still only attracting what's considered budget brides or mid level, I guess would be the best way to say that, mid-budget bride, like couples who were strapped. Like they wanted this Pinterest perfect wedding, but they were on a tight budget. So trying to navigate that was more work than they were getting paid to do. But because they cared so much about executing a great wedding experience, they were doing it. So my instinct was obviously naturally to help. And so I started giving a lot of advice on things that they could do. I extended calls for them, like a 30-minute strategy session turned into like an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. They started texting me and email, like it was just nonstop communication on my end and almost daily. I mapped out this big strategy on how to build a cohesive brand experience. I was in charge of Pinterest and it was rocking over there. They were seeing an increase in brand awareness. There was, a 216% increase in outbound clicks, but their conversions weren't great. And so I got into the nitty gritty with them. I was like, your Instagram and your Pinterest look like the luxury designer and is attracting them because they're going to your website. But your website does not reflect that. And so when they get there, the ones that are luxury are not going to book because you've shown them two different people, basically, two different planners. And so the trust that they had enough to click on the pin or through the link in your bio is now broken because you look like someone completely different. So I mapped out this very big, intricate strategy on how we were going to do it. And what happened is they became dependent on me to, boost sales. And that's not my job. My job is to build awareness. My job is to bring traffic. My job is to lead people to purchase. But it is your website and your job on discovery calls to close the client and to make the sales. But they were becoming more and more dependent on me. So the more I tried to carry those personal and professional struggles, the less I was able to implement the Pinterest marketing strategy that they hired me for, because I was now doing all these other things instead of delegating it. I was feeling more responsible for their stress, even though that wasn't what I was responsible for. So that's when it hit me. I wasn't being empathetic. I was enabling them to rely on me for sales, and that's not my job. It was draining both of us, and we ended up cutting ties over it because I was like, this is my job and my part is working. But because they had enabled them for so long, they couldn't clearly see that. I was like, I am bringing you the traffic that you asked me to bring you, but it's your job for the conversion. So I really had to hone in on that. But what I would like to do with that story and everything else is focus on one buyback principle, because that's something that you were talking about with you of delegating and building a team. They hired us to do certain things. And when you hire someone to do something, when you delegate a task that is supposed to free up your time, you have to fill that time with more productive income producing activities. Those IPAs that no one likes to talk about.
Yeah.
That we get distracted by other things. It's really hard to do. So if you start stepping in and doing the same things you delegated, well, then you're both stressing yourselves out because nothing's moving forward. So with that thought process and that concept, I would like to break down empathy and enabling, like what they can really, they look very similar, but they couldn't be more different. So empathy is about understanding what someone's going through and responding appropriately. So it's more like responding with, I hear you. I care about this problem that you're having, whether it's personal or professional, because I do care. I'm not just out here trying to make money, which is why I still joke about being a broke CEO because I care more. But here's how I can support you within the role you hired me for. But I also include, here are people that I know and trust that can help you with these problems, whether that's sending them to a life coach or a business coach or a website designer or branding expert, something, whatever their problem is. I probably know someone or know someone who knows someone and can send them those referrals to bring that peace of mind without me adding more on my plate. I'm continuing that delegation cycle. But enabling, on the other hand, through trial and error of learning, very specific caveat, is when we start taking that responsibility for outcomes that we cannot control. That's when we slide into the, I'll fix this for you. I'll carry that weight. I'll take it off of you and put it onto me, and I'll make sure everything turns out okay. One, if I'm going to enable anyone that I've learned, is my own business. I'm going to carry the weight of my own business. I'm going to make sure everything in my business turns out okay. And I'm going to make sure that your business functions and is successful in the ways that you specifically hired me to do, because that's what I've taken the time to educate myself on to make sure I'm the best at this one thing. And for me, that's marketing. So empathy empowers clients, in a nutshell, for those that are wondering. Empathy empowers clients to move forward with confidence. Enabling creates dependency and keeps them stuck. Really, it keeps you both stuck.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely don't want to feel stuck. One thing I think my biggest weakness is, I wouldn't say weakness, but weakness and strength, is that I truly do care. Like, I truly care about people. I'm a people person. I want to make sure that you have what you need to succeed. But we have to create those boundaries, because if we do not, going back again to the burnout thing, we are just going to be left with nothing, no energy. We're going to worry about things that we don't need to worry about. Like you said, Dana, like if there's somebody in your network that can take over that specific problem that they're having, reach out to that person, making sure that they have a connection to connect with, so that you can focus on what you were hired for. Of course, we care, we want to show empathy, we want to make sure that we communicate with our client. Yes, I do understand that you're struggling, but do understand that this is what you hired me for in order for you to grow this part of your business. So if you want to grow another part of your business, let's find out who can do this for you. When I talk about helping you build and grow your teams, because every aspect of your business is going to have a different type of expert, a different type of service that you're going to need help with.
Absolutely. I dream of the day that I can build a team and like get all the stress off and let it be like puzzle pieces of solving that problem. Something that we've talked about before is not necessarily on the podcast, so don't go searching for this, but it's something called helpers high that we've been seeing in the interwebs. And that's when, and I love it. It's like getting a pat on the back, and everyone loves a pat on the back, whether it's virtual or in real life. But when a client leans on us and says, "Oh my gosh, you've been such a lifesaver," we feel needed, and that feels good.
Mm-hmm.
But being needed isn't the same as actually helping. It's like working with a toddler. They need you for everything. But if you're not teaching them how to be independent, it is no longer going to be cute or fun to help a preteen with the same tasks, because you've enabled them to rely on you to do everything from tying their shoes to making their food to cleaning their room. That's going to actually damage your relationship with your child, but also with your clients, because they're not building confidence in themselves to make those decisions, to grow, to get uncomfortable in growth. They keep coming back to you for every single answer and every single fix. And meanwhile, you're going to be overworked and underpaid every single time.
Yep.
Every time.
Every single time. Yeah.
Do you, because you do more of the operations and team building side, do you have, because I love a framework or something, do you have a method or a guide or suggestions for fostering more empathy in your teams and client relationships versus enabling?
Going back to setting boundaries without sounding like a jerk, because we want to help our clients in any way that we can. Having those open, honest conversations. Hey, I can see that X, Y, and Z is really stressing you out. Have you considered this? So I see that you're really stressing over your social media content. Have you considered hiring a social media manager? And then in that conversation, just kind of redirect back to what you actually work on. The empathy acknowledgement. This sounds incredibly difficult. Let's focus on the service that I'm providing you. Let's focus on team management, the support that I'm helping you right now. And then let's find the person that can help you with the other aspects of your business. Problem solving. I'm all about helping a business grow, and having those conversations. When you are building and growing a team, you literally have to write out everything that you do in your business and then come up with who to hire for. Just like when you create systems, when you say like step 1, step 2, step 3 to get to the final result. And that's how you have to set the boundaries and building systems and making sure that you have everything in place before you decide to pile it on just that one person you hired. Just like, here, can you do all this for me? And no, I can't.
That part. Mic drop right there. So let's get really practical, because knowing, like we talked about, knowing the difference between empathy and enabling is one thing, but actually living it takes practice, especially when you're working with multiple clients. And one of the first shifts is separating your feelings from fixing. You can absolutely validate a client's emotions without swooping in to solve the problem. Because sometimes at the end of the day, we just need to be heard by someone, preferably someone that gets it. And if you have a client, they know you're an entrepreneur, so like you get it. And because you do work so closely together, you know it better than anyone. So when if a client starts to vent, basically, during a strategy call, I pause and I say, do you want me to just listen right now? Or you want me to help brainstorm a solution? It takes the guesswork out of how I'm going to support and show up for them. But it also helps me to stay in my role instead of overstepping, because honestly, it's a reality check for me. Hey, stop trying to fix it, because I'm naturally a nurturer. So the support versus solution needs to be pointed out. And when clients do want help, I follow up with what I call an empowerment check, because that's what we also need instead of giving the answer, which I realize I do this with my kids. And so I need to do it more with clients, is asking, what do you think your next step might be? Or what are you leaning towards as your next step? And that shifts the responsibility back to them while still keeping me supportive, because depending on what they want or where they think they want to go will allow me to, like you said, tie it back to boundaries and not overstepping, but also delegating and saying, here are people that I recommend based on what it is that you want for your next step. So that just keeps everything in scope and allows me to show that I care and I'm helping them in a way that still keeps me in my lane of what they hired me for. It's compassionate, but it also reinforces expectations and those boundaries. So all for helping and supporting, but we need to do it in a way that aligns and saves both of my energy as well as the client's energy. Because once you cross that line and you feel drained, then they start questioning everything. Are you actually doing your job? Are you actually helping? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? So if you start blurring those lines, whose problem are you really trying to solve right now? If it's not mine, it's not the client's, step back and refocus and reevaluate.
Talking about crossing that line, and been there so many times. We want to help our clients in every way that we can, but you have to check in with yourself and set those boundaries, because if you don't put your foot down, then they're gonna keep at it. And lessons learned on my side, because I've been there. I can't do that anymore. I definitely don't want to. That's going to suck your energy out now that you're drained and you don't want to do anything else. And now you're just like, oh, it's noon. Can I go take a nap? It makes you question everything. And you wonder about like your services. Are my services clear? Do they think that I could do everything else? I'm not an expert in everything. Nobody is. I want to do what I'm good at.
Yes. So I started telling people, because, people talk to me about social media because Pinterest gets lumped in with social media.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know enough to be dangerous in the sense of I don't have someone to do it right now. So I know enough to keep me relevant, but not enough to say I can guarantee this outcome for you, because I don't spend all of my time diving into algorithms and trends and this and that, new features on Instagram. No, I don't.
Yeah.
I know enough to make sure that you find me and I can convince you to also post on Pinterest. It's kind of an oxymoron, but I have to go on these platforms to connect with my audience who know they need different marketing strategies, but they don't know they need Pinterest yet. So I have to meet them where they are and like sweeten them up to go on the Pinterest side of things. But now with that whole thought process, my helper's high has shifted to taking on their responsibility to love being able to say, I know someone who can help you. We have talked on numerous episodes, so do go find them, about how important it is to have a community or some sort of referral network, whether that is, like I said, a life coach, a therapist, a marketing specialist, an email marketing person, a virtual assistant, anything that an HR specialist, whatever, means that your clients get supported without me overstepping, over functioning, and saving my energy. It's such an important thing to remember that we're going to like talk about this a lot or repeat ourselves, but supporting your clients gets to look like this in a way that means connecting them to the right person and not being the only person in their back pocket. I used to think that caring less would make me a worse business owner. And it took probably too long to realize that it doesn't. And that's why I've shifted my helper's high to being like, oh, I know someone. I got you, in the sense of here's someone else you can talk to. Because I've learned that caring more strategically makes me better at actually helping people. So when I stopped trying to fix everything myself, my clients started fixing things themselves. And it not only helps my client, but it helps foster a relationship with another entrepreneur. So by essentially, when I talk about community, and I've talked about it outside within like the co-working walls, you want to be surrounded by people who are going to mention your name in rooms that you are not able to be in. So when I'm referring someone to a client of mine, or even they're not a client, if someone, like, I'm on a discovery call and they're talking about all of the work, because I ask them what they're doing in general to attract their clients, not just Pinterest specific, because I need to know all the things, because I'm sending people from Pinterest to these platforms. So I need to know that. And they talk about, well, my website needs a rebrand, like a revamp, or I need to be better about posting on Instagram. I hate doing that. Or I need to add more updated blog posts because I haven't written one in like 3 years. Well, great. I can work on your old blog content and, revamp it on Pinterest. But while I'm doing that, let me connect you with this copywriter or this email marketer or this web designer and branding expert, which I actually just did a couple weeks ago. So that's why it's fresh in my brain. And by doing so, it fosters that relationship with that other entrepreneur. So the people I connect with will hopefully are automatically going to do it anyway, but it just instills that that's who I am. And so hopefully they will repay that kindness with doing the same thing. So as they're on discovery calls and they're talking to potential clients or current clients, and they're like venting about their frustrations, because these are people I've never met and probably will never meet, then they will mention my name and suggest that they talk to me. And so that keeps my discovery calls flowing and full, and I don't have to chase as much because we've already taken the time to build that relationship, and they're putting my name in rooms that I wouldn't have the opportunity to be in. Say that right. I don't.
It's like that 6th degree of separation. You never know who somebody else knows. What I came across in my 5 years or so has been without being direct. What I mean by this is, so somebody asks or vents about something, and I say, well, I don't have the answer right now. Give me a few days. Let me see if I can reach out to somebody or do a little bit of research without like giving them anything. And what I've seen happen is that since they need that now, they figure it out. So I'm still showing empathy by saying, hey, I'm going to help you, but you're just going to have to wait a little bit because I don't know. And then they go figure it out on themselves. And that's some growth right there.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I'm not an expert in XYZ, so I don't know. I can't give you an answer right now. But knowing that they know that they want it now, they're going to go and be resourceful and they're going to figure it out. I've seen that happen many times.
Sometimes the most empathetic thing you can do for someone is not dive in and rescue them. Let them figure it out. And I think you'll both be surprised on what happens.
I think it's pretty cool to see, like, even for myself, like I can vent all day to somebody, to you, Dana, to my husband, to whomever, and not have an answer, but me just saying things out loud, the answer is right there.
Honestly, that does help a lot, talking about it out loud, because then you hear it I don't know, somehow I hear it in a different way just by saying it out loud. As I say this, maybe that's not the best idea.
Yeah. If you're struggling with your team members who want to solve problems outside of their zone of genius, I think we need to have a call. So what you can do is book a free consultation with me, and we can help figure out how to show empathy without enabling to your teams.
And for those that have lasted this long with us, if you're realizing that your marketing isn't working because you're trying to be everything to everyone or to be omnipresent on too many channels, let's dive into focusing your message. So you can come hang out with me on Instagram at danas.desk.nc, and we can work out a strategy that returns your energy, allows you to have fun on social media again, and repurpose content that becomes evergreen funnels.
Empathy without boundaries is not sustainable. So I want you to try the listening limit, acknowledge the problem, and then redirect how you can actually help. Your clients will respect you more and you'll sleep better.
And that's the win.
That is the win. All of our information is going to be in the show notes. Until next time.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at URembert for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.